Hello art students! In this video I would like to share with you my demo on how to draw the human head for the first time. This is the first half of the demo. Prior to this, in the Russian academic art curriculum, students learned by drawing a lot of still lifes, sketching animals, plants, and even architecture. They already understand construction, perspective, measurement, and proportions. So this very next step is not too difficult for them. We're using the sculpted head of Doryphorus in ancient Roman sculpture. If you like this video, like it, share it with someone, leave your comments in the comment section, subscribe to my channel, support me on Patreon, and visit my website to buy a painting. Until next time! So about the same turn, the head and the skull. Very similar, the head tilts slightly to the left, the skull is more straight, but for our demo it's sufficient. So, we already kind of looked at this before, but this sketches different turns, right? Different turns of the head. So basically what they are explaining here is how do you understand the different turns of the head. Straight on is probably the easiest one because you have the center of symmetry that goes through the middle of the face and you line up all the facial features. See, it's very sketchy, yet it shows how it lines up and it's pretty realistic, right? Including the ears and the whole front of the face, the jaw, the forehead, everything becomes symmetrical. But once you start turning the head in different directions, and I'm choosing a very mild turn over there. It's not straight on, but it's a little more toward 3/4. And we'll actually see if it is exactly 3/4 or not, all right? Because 3/4 means something fits into the other part 3 times, right? One measurement fits into the other 3 times. That's 3/4, 4 being total. All right, so here's another turn. You see how they draw a line through the eyes, right? That shows you it's almost like an elliptical here because the way that the eyes, the front of the face, lines up with the rest of the head. It could be looked upon as elliptical or square, just like your cube, right? Here's you're looking slightly down at this person, and that's why it dips down a bit. Here you're looking a lot more down on the face of the person because here the person is tilting their head, right? But still we're having a more of a downward angle. That's why it rotates a lot more, right? It dips down a lot more. Here we're looking up at the face of the person. Everything rotates in the opposite direction because it's an extreme angle, right? And what we're basically looking at is the entire skull cavity, and see how close the skull is to being around, like a sphere, right? Except for the jaw attaching and the nasal and eye sockets, nasal cavity and eye sockets. The rest of the skull, the back of the head, forehead, are almost a sphere, like a misshapen sphere, right? So because we're looking straight up, almost like through the jaw, we're seeing that all of this becomes very much round, close to that round shape. Person turning away, still you see more of the roundness of it, and this line going through the eyes and the middle of the ear. You see that this line is turning too, because everything is rotating around that round part of the skull. Again, here's the person is like laying down. What are we seeing? We're seeing the front of the face more flat, and here it's rotating to go around that spherical part of the skull. And in this case, the turn of the face compared to the body is showing you all the perspective lines. So that you don't just do the faces themselves correctly, you line them up to the body correctly as well, so you know how it all connects. The person is like leaning back with the body, tilting the head forward, but because he is sitting otherwise straight, he is only bending around this way, but from this direction all these planes are still the same. He hasn't turned his head to the side. He's not looking to the side. He's looking straight and down. Because of that, all of these planes that go through the chest perspective lines line up with a perspective line for the chin, for the mouth, for the nose, for the cheekbones, for the brows, for the eyes, and they're all going to a vanishing point, okay? Because these ones are closer, they're going to a vanishing point closer together. These are further apart. They are slightly tilting, so the plane of this side changes slightly. So they are probably not going to come to the same vanishing point as this, but it's going to be very close because it's in the same direction. And of course, all of these lines are going in the opposite direction, also toward different vanishing points. In this case here, because of the tilts, they're going to be vanishing points off of your eye level because they are inclined planes. Understand? So everything you learn in geometry of how to draw three-dimensional on two-dimensional surface, is still all the rules apply to the body as well. Here, they went ahead and sketched a hand in, and all the same planes and vanishing point perspective applies to the hand as well. See, the hand is very simplified into just like this is the top planes, these are the top planes that bend, they become inclined planes, and these are all the more vertical planes. But the same rule applies. The line, perspective line that lines up with the wrist, the bend in the wrist, goes to a vanishing point. The line that lines up with the knuckles goes to a vanishing point. The line that lines up with each bend in these fingers here, even though they're starting to separate, pretty much if you drew a separate one through each one, will still go to the vanishing point. Here it's just simplified as if it was one with slight variation off of it. And the same thing happens to each of these fingers as well. So they are taking this finger, connecting it to a vanishing point, and even the tip of the finger will connect to the vanishing point. Same thing will happen to those. So once you put your simplified planes in here with vanishing lines going toward the vanishing point, you can pretty closely guess the other fingers, their bends and angles. See? All right, so what we are concerned with today is to start a very simple head. This is what's expected as a first step. So what do we see in here as a first step toward drawing a full head, right? Here's your second step, and here's your final step.
Carving.
So right here, main proportions get put in right away, right? So a little bit of the neck, not too much, is showing. Top of the head, straight line. That's the highest most point. Bam, you chop that off. You go by the chin. You're not including the bottom, so you don't have to do that bottom platform. You go by the chin, so basically our entire object fits between here, right, in between those two lines. This being the lowest part of the chin and under the chin, all right? The chin itself has the main turn right here. That's where the darkest part of the shadow, the terminator, is. What we're seeing here is under the chin. And our model has a little bit more under the chin than this one. Probably slightly different angle, different sculpture. So, but the main thing gets lined up right away. Top, bottom. How does the width of the head fits into the entire height, right? Then the center line gets put in right away for the entire face. Here it's first sketched in more or less straight, and then it's carved. So here's a slightly stronger band, goes toward where the bridge of the nose starts, comes out a little more forward, comes in for under the nose, comes out forward in and forward in for the lips and under the chin, because under the chin that's a deeper spot in there, right? Comes back out for the chin and goes out, connects to the neck. And look at these lines here, they are slightly curved, right? What does it tell us? It tells us that the artist in this particular drawing was looking slightly up at the eyes. They were slightly higher than his eye level. See? Mm-hmm. So if he was looking slightly down, these lines would start to curve slightly downward, right? Mm-hmm. So his eye level may have been either right at the chin or right around the lips or so, because this is so mild, right? And that's how I positioned it for you as well. So your eye level will be somewhat around the nose, I would say. Okay, you will, once you sit in this chair, you'll figure it out. And so therefore, for the eyes and for the eyebrows, the lines will be slightly curved. Here they will be flattening out, and here it will start to travel a little more upward toward that eye level and vanishing points. Same thing in this direction. Obviously, it will all go in this direction to the vanishing point, and in this direction toward your other vanishing point. All right, so the first step, if you can achieve that with all the main light and shadow areas figured out, with your center and main shapes positioned, see, they are not going by the main features necessarily, they're going by the main fields of light to dark, right? Mostly everything is in the light, mostly everything is in the shadow and medium tones. That's what they're laying out. So what does it mean for you, for your particular head? First, we can establish the width to the height, right? And we're going to draw this sort of egg shape for the face. So I'm measuring eye side measurement of the width, and I'm going through the very bottom of the chin. And I see that it comes to kind of the hairline, just a little bit above it. And then there's about a third or so. So if I took, and I'm going to leave this here for the skull. If I
on the skull?
We'll see how it goes for your head. All right? So eventually you are drawing the skull. You can't escape that. Whether it's going to be right after this or a few lessons down, we'll see. So I am leaving the room here just so I could also demonstrate the same thing on the skull, basically. Mm-hmm. So what you're seeing in the sculpture and what you're seeing in the skull. So if I'm taking this width, because I'm separating my page in about this 2 halves, if this is my width, and if this is my height, I'm choosing height, then it will come to here, and then I need another third or so, like about here. So let's see if it indeed feels like thirds. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I can make it a little less. Okay, so again, this is very loosely. I'm not going into any precision yet. I'm just letting my intuition guide me as to what kind of shape it will be, and measuring very loosely. One width to this height, and another, it seems kind of right, like what I was seeing, a third. 1, 2, 3. Very close. So I will go with that right now. And now, if you imagine that this is your chunk of marble, right? And in this chunk of marble, you're going to carve in that sort of egg shape with the chin being down here somewhere. You can see how that egg shapes up. The tallest part is more on this side, more to the left. The chin is more or less, it's closer to the middle. It's not as close to this end, the left end. It's a little closer to the middle, but it's not in the middle. This is the middle. The chin is still off to the left. And the lowest part of the chin is that soft under the chin area, right? The tallest part of the head is somewhere in here turning. Then it's a bit sloping down. It's sloping down a whole lot faster over here. It's coming at an angle toward your chin, like that. And from your chin, it's coming up like this. There's somewhere in here makes a zigzag for the ear. We're not going to worry about it. We're just going to make a note that yes, it's coming through like that. And it does the fastest, sharpest turn somewhere in here, and it starts going in this direction. Okay? So you got your egg in, and then you look at this egg and you look at what you're seeing. Anything extreme? I think perhaps over here we want to focus on not going downward quite as fast, not quite as strong of a turn. Let's do it more like that. Over here, make sure it's not too pointy. It's coming up higher, but it's not super pointy here. And the sharpest turn on this side is right here. It's in the hair, but it's also close to the eyebrow level. So because I didn't line up anything else in the face yet, these turns are guesses based on what I'm seeing. You understand? So you will be guessing as well. You just need to guess close enough. However, now that you've done that, so the neck will be coming out here somewhere. Now that you've done that, let's take a look and see if our facial features will fit in nicely, right? Because we're pretty sure that the width to height is close enough to what we were measuring. So to start lining up facial features, first thing first, center of symmetry for the face. All right, center of symmetry will be down here somewhere, going that way. And I'm looking at his hair. Often the hair parts down the middle, at least somewhat, and his partition in the hair does look like it's lining up with the center of his face. And there's additional little shadows in there. So it looks a lot closer to this side than to this side. So in a very kind of rotating, guessing manner, I will guess that this is how close it is to this side, okay? And it's obviously, if it's rotating around the back of the head, then it has to do something like that, all right? Because the back of the head is our perfect, nearly perfect circle. So right now we can put in the circular shape in here. This additional bump here, it's caused by hair, by the fullness of the hair. So the actual skull fits inside here. And the chin then will be coming out of that. So if you imagine that this line, we've seen it through the hair, but if you imagine the same thing happening in the back of the skull, then it's something like that. See? So this is for the back of the skull, which we're not seeing, but we can imagine. Then it will be coming down here with the curvature of that initial curvature for the forehead, for the hair. But then it flattens out a bit, flattens out. And then it starts curving really fast for that under the chin to the center. Center of under the chin that connects to the neck, which is going to be somewhere in here. Something like that, Okay, so this is the strongest curve here. And then the face flattens out, and then it curves. You see how you are, by just positioning this V shape almost here in this top and finding this hairline, if you connect them, you see that there is a slight angle to the whole thing, right? And remember how I said in the beginning, the head is a little tilting to the left. So you can now go in there to the facial features, the nose, the forehead, the shadows you're seeing in there, and the chin. You can measure that angle to the hairline, and you can bring it here and compare. Seems close. It's a mild angle, and that's good. So basically, we can keep that. This is a good center to keep. Now, remember what I was saying? We'll find out whether it's 3/4 or not. So now that we put this in here, we know that this will come in a little bit in and then out for the nose, right? So there will be a dip, then it will be coming more forward like this for the nose. But for what we are concerned with is that this distance and how it works with this distance, right? So you go and by the dip in the nose, that where the bridge of the nose starts, you measure that from the center of the face to the edge to the left where the hair is, and you move it to the right. Once, twice, 2.5 times. So I'm measuring this once. It goes in here once, twice, and very close to being another half, right? What I'll do is to make sure that I don't lose that, I will definitely stay more on this edge, less that way. My sketch is smaller than what you're drawing, yours is going to be larger. For your sketch, this 1/8 of an inch may not matter, for my it does. Okay, so here we go. So I'm staying a little more this way. And I'm making sure that this is definitely my other boundary. Once, twice, and definitely a half. And I'm making sure I'm not going beyond that. Already I am kind of positioning it down the middle, but I didn't count this. I didn't measure those proportions. I didn't quite take a look at that. All I know is that when I did my egg shape, this was definitely, the widest part was definitely close to the top of the head, and the lower part of the egg was a little more stretched out downward. And now we can go and actually get those proportions. So let's see, the easiest thing would be is to take your, from the very bottom of the chin where it attaches to the neck, to your eye, to one of the corners of the eye. That will be the center of your eye. All right, and what I'm seeing is, I'm guessing because we're sitting slightly lower, looking slightly up at the face, I'm seeing that it's close to being half and half, but the upper half is just slightly smaller. So if I put a mark right here, my guessing mark for the corner of the eye, and I measure it to here, just move it slightly up. There we go. So I need the lower half from the eyes down be slightly more than this. Okay, double check that proportion once again. Go in there. Yeah, it's about like that. So it seems that my eyes are going to be sitting on this line. Now I just need to get the proper angle. They are tilting a bit, the eyes. The axis for the eyes is tilting slightly. So I am tilting my line a little downward this way and a little upward this way. So far it's straight line, okay? So far we're figuring out proportions. My line is so far straight. Once you get more experience, you can start curving it already, but for now, just go with a straight line. So here's the center for the eyes. Now let's find another major change in planes and where the shadows are forming is the eyebrow line. So what I'll do is I will compare from the chin to the eyebrow and compare it to the side of the head. All right, I see where it goes through one of the eyes. I'll compare it again, and I'll compare it to the whole face from brow up. And all right, so what I'm seeing is that it seems that to the eyebrows, which I'm going to throw in now as my guessing line. This is my guess. I'm seeing that this distance fits into here about like that to the eye. And if I measure from here to here, there's definitely plenty of room. But this way, it gives me a little bit better idea. And what I think I need to do is just raise this a bit higher. And see how I'm already positioning it at the same angle as the eyes. And then I will measure this once again. Compare it to here. Could be a bit higher because I need this. I need this to hit that eye from here. There we go, to here, where the other eye comes out. You see? All right. So if you can eyesight measure it as close as possible, then your proportions are going to come out great. All right? Mm-hmm. So be sure that you're careful at your measuring. So putting this line in here at about the same angle, there is slight perspective as they go away, but it's such a mild tilt that at this point, at this stage in your drawing, all you need is at least get them exactly parallel. A little bit of a tilt can be added later by literally just saying, okay, this stays, this comes through, this kind of starts to be raised a bit. See? And there's your mild tilt for that perspective. All right, so we got our center of the face. So basically it means that all of this will be pretty much in the shadow, and all of this will be pretty much in the shadow. All right, that's approximately. See how it's already starting to look like a face. Mm-hmm. And you see I didn't touch that because there's that light on the nose where it comes up to the bridge. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm looking at that. I'm looking at my sculpture. Seems like the main fields of light and dark are about in the right place, right? What I can double check so this shape doesn't go too far this way or doesn't stop too close is I can double check right now. I can measure from the center of the nose to this corner, and that's going to be where the shadow is going to stop. And I'm going to compare it to the rest of the face. All right, I'm going there, center of the nose to the pointy part of the shadow from the eye, and it's about half and half. From the center of the nose to that corner is the same distance. So I hit it right, so I'm keeping it. Later, this may change a bit. It may come down here for the shadow under the eyelid, and this shape will be more like looking like that. We're not worried about it now, and we are simplifying everything. So now the time is to place the bottom of the nose, right? The bottom of the nose, and we'll go right to the top of the eyebrows. That line, that's a very strong line between light and shadow. And what I'm seeing is that where the nose is attaching back to the face, this and this is about half and half. From the nose to the eyebrow line, from the bottom of the nose to the chin, this is the attachment for the nose. And there is also a nice thick shadow. So that's a pretty easy thing to find because it's like two halves here, right? Okay, so now that I placed that point, perspective again, since we have this here, and I already said that my eye level is about the bottom of the nose, so I can safely draw a straight line through. Because for me, I look at that nose and I feel like this is my eye level here, so everything along here becomes very straight. But because of this slight tilt, I will now tilt this, but only slightly. So little bit of distinguishment between completely straight and a slight tilt. Very little. Here it's a bit more, slightly less, a lot less, but that also means that because this is my eye level and this tilt is very mild, somewhere around the mouth it might end up being very flat, either through the lips or through the bottom of the chin. I'm sorry, under the lip. So I'm putting my pencil in the air to compare, and I'm seeing that in the lips there is still a bit of an angle, but under the chin it's exactly flat. That's where it evens out. And that means that under the chin it will start to be a bit upwards in that direction. All right, so now I will find the position of where it's going to be under the lip. It's a nice dent, there's a kind of a strong shadow in there, good distance. So again, I'm going to the very bottom of my chin that attaches to the neck and measuring up to the nose, and it goes kind of to the top of the nose. So if I can imagine the top of the nose being right here, then it becomes half and half between here and there. So this seems like a good position, and that one is definitely straight across. This one is not going to have any tilting at all. And that means that where it attaches to the neck is going to have a very mild tilt.
Wow.
In the opposite direction, right? Here are your perspective lines. There is a lot more of the perspective lines through the front of the face than through its side. All right, so that also means that we can now start lining up the rest of the lips. If this is under the lips, there is a bit of the thickness to that lip coming out toward us. There is the center of the lip partition. There is the top lip. And then there's not much of a space between the nose and the attachment of the nose to the face and the top lip. The space is rather narrow, and it's taken up by a shadow being cast from the nose and a little bit of light. So, okay, so I'll say like, I'm looking at this layout, I'm going like, seems all right. Okay, so what I can double check is this partition between the lips and make sure it fits nicely between the shadow under the lip, that dip, and the bottom of the nose. See what the proportions are. And you see this sculpture is slightly larger than human size head. It's about half and half. This and this are about half and half. Okay, so that's what I got. That's good. So it's a little larger than human head because, well, first of all, it was usually sculpted this way because it's for display, but it's recreated here for you to draw from larger than human size head as well, because you can easily go and measure all these features then. It's not becoming so small that when you're sitting back, it's hard to measure the proportions. That's why the classical sculpture is so good to study from. It's a bit stylized, simplified facial features that are also perfected to the nice proportions, the sort of standard of beauty, and it makes it easier for you to see everything, measure it out, and recreate. All right, so since we have the center of the face here coming up, we can start lining up things according to that center as a center of symmetry, except we are accounting for foreshortening because everything is turning away. And that means that, for example, if we placed this about right, we can also say that, all right, somewhere in here is going to be kind of like the corner of the eye. And if I compare to the corner of the eye, all of my facial features here, how do they line up? I see that the nose is kind of under the corner of the eye. And the nose where it attaches to the face has a bit of a tilt like this, because that's where the cheek muscles start to overlap and connect to the nose connection, right? So right now I will just simplify it as a very simple geometric form, but you can see that this point, and remember to put your points in, this is where the nose, center of the nose attaches back to the face. This is your other corner. It's kind of under this corner of the eye, but because of that tilt, it's also at that little bit of a tilt. If you drop a straight line, you see that it's slightly to the right of the straight line. So you can drop your plumb line, you can hang your pencil there up and down and see just by how much it goes a little beyond that straight line, right? But not by a whole lot. All right, so that means we got this size. We can now project the other part of the nose over here. This is where it's exactly the same, but we know that there is a stronger foreshortening there, right? Mm-hmm. So because of that, we foreshorten that other half. And we foreshorten it not just willy-nilly, but comparing it to the other corner of the eye that we already kind of kept an eye on because we were measuring the other proportions for the nose. And so our other corner of the eye and where the nose comes forward, we kind of seen it already. The nose from the eyebrows will be doing something like this on both sides of this line, and it will be coming out kind of in this direction. The corner of the eye is showing right here. There is a small distance between them. And then the rest of the eye will go in here. And therefore, we can keep an eye on this corner of the eye more or less easily. And we can compare where the other side of the nose is. And it seems that it's doing something more or less like this. All right? So again, you can drop your plumb line from the corner. You can draw a straight line and compare by how much this corner of the nose is going to the left of it. Or you can just compare it to the center line. So you see the foreshortening, right? A lot more here, a lot less on the other side. So basically this will be your abstract portion of the nose. Your simplified view of the nose. You see how I am simplifying it like this. Here's somewhere in here is going to be the center, and it's going to connect to here. So let's go ahead and put that in. So you can go as simple as line up your pencil with the strongest tilt of the nose where you see the shadow and bring it here. So it looks like what I sketched in was pretty close. This is going to be your strongest tilt of the nose, where it forms the biggest, darkest shadow that's most visible, right? And it's coming toward the center. It never hits the center, and just before it gets to the eyebrows, it straightens out and heads toward the eyebrow, like this, right? And it kind of joins with the eyebrow, and that is your eye socket. If you look at the corresponding skull, you see that something very similar is going on in there, right? Mm-hmm. So on its opposite, what is happening is the nose, because of this line here, it's coming in here, that's your center. It dips in a bit, and it straightens out, and it's coming through the middle of the nose, kind of like that. And on its opposite side, you have another thing going. So here it's where this side of the nose, also with foreshortening in mind, this being greater distance than that. Here it's lining up across where that turn happens, with major change in plane, and it's going in this direction. And this also has the foreshortening. So where you have this connection and where you have this connection, you see the foreshortening as well. Understand? Mm-hmm. Good. So then this, let me just straighten it out a bit. Don't do it too curved in the beginning, do it all more or less straight lines. All right. This is all landing on this eyebrow line. So we landed that. That means that now we have the center of the nose. This is the very center of symmetry of the nose. That means right here it's going to be turning. The very tip of the nose is another little sphere, right?
Oh.
Yep. And because that's the sphere here,
Nose.
it gives you an idea on how all of those shapes then line up. So what happens is that this shape here, the nose, this edge of the nose, where also you're going to have that strong dark shadow, starts to turn and go under. This part, the center of the nose, also curves and goes under. See, all of that starts curving. And in this sculpture, the way I have it lit, it is actually, you see a little bit of the shadow here coming up down the center, just a tad. So while this shadow here is wrapping around this side and going right under here, this one is wrapping around this way, coming here, and then this one is also wrapping around that ball, you see? Mm. And then, of course, on this side of the ball, it flattens out and connects to another slightly rounded part. And the same thing is happening here. It's slightly rounded, and they both connect to each other. But the main thing is that this exercise was about, we simplify the bottom of the nose so we can easily cover this with our shadow. We now have this. That means all of this might as well go into the shadow now, like that. And now, as we're working through the lips, we can say that to simplify it, we are going to just position the corners of the lips and connect this with a shadow, because that lip is all in a very good strong shadow. Where is this corner of the lip? Again, we're comparing it to the nose, and we're seeing that as this line was kind of lining up with our corner of the eye, it continues this way. It's the muscles and how they overlap the facial features. You bring this here, and you got your corner here. And because I kind of turned it up, it looks like he's smiling already. We'll work on those facial expressions later. But on the other side, it's also foreshortened. The connection between the lips is on our main line that we drew, center line. These parts of the lips are coming forward, so the center line will be shifting, but we'll come to it in a minute. Okay, so here we go. Measure this, measure that. Definitely shorter. Compare it to the corner of the nose that you already looked at. It looks like it's pretty much straight down like this. And that means that, yeah, there is a greater foreshortening here. Why would there be slightly stronger foreshortening here? Because the jaw is slightly round on the front. So look at the skull again. See the roundness, how the teeth are wrapping around kind of in a round way, right? Mm-hmm. So because there is that roundness, the foreshortening for this side of the mouth is stronger than for the nose, for example, or for the eyes. Because here it's curving a lot more, and here it's closer to a flat. It's a mild curvature. So here we go. So now basically we can guess where the top of his lips is. Again, slightly foreshortened, slightly more here, slightly less there, but we also have this where it comes out forward for the lip, right? It's going away from the center. It's now coming in, back to the center. It's coming way out, and it's coming in again. Kind of like that. All right, with different people, it's different. Some people have the jaw extended forward a bit more than others. But for this classic sculpture, you can also just stand up, walk over there, and see what his profile looks like. And you see that his jaw is not extending under the nose very much forward. And therefore, if you imagine that line going through, you see that the center line you already drew, all of these features come off of it and come back, because it's pretty much what his face, front of the face, looks like. The jaw doesn't extend forward too much. The nose doesn't have a strong forward tilt movement either. All right, so here we got that. So you see how the lips now look also like there is a strong foreshortening, stronger, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can connect this, very simply connect this, and give it a shadow. Then we can connect the same thing here. Here's your bottom lip. Leave it light for now. But there is that shadow underneath, with the strongest part being right here. Don't lose it. That's the darkest one. Then there is a chin happening. So again, if we trace all of our shapes here, we can bring the chin forward. We see that the chin comes forward. Then it flattens out, and then it starts tilting. How far it flattens out? It's very good size. You can actually look at that shadow under the lip and see that you can almost see that this area is not very wide. You see? The shadow falls across from the lip, and you only see a small piece of light right here. It's not very wide. And then the whole chin comes down. So he doesn't have a chin that extends forward a lot either. In fact, it's looking more like his lips extend forward a bit more than the chin. So we'll do that. We'll bring this here. We'll move this here. Still at that tilt, general tilt of the face. And we need to find this part, this shadow, because the rest is under the chin area connecting to the neck. And now, see, I have this approximate turn here. I was only guessing it. Now we can actually compare that to the mouth. And this is the mouth. And I can see that this is definitely more over here. So extend. And now we can connect it like this, because we're seeing kind of the shadow leads us to that corner. That corner is slightly higher than the chin, the main turn in the chin. And then all of this connects upward, also somewhere around the eye, the eyebrows. Yeah. So now I'm gonna add this turn in here. Now I'm gonna turn this a bit, give it a bit more of a turn. This has very little turn. It's wrapping around the front of the jaw, right above the teeth, so there's still a curvature there. So we are curving this, but we're keeping our points, you see? So what is happening is when you're curving this, you're curving it through your main points. You don't want to lose them. They're telling you the main facial features and how they're positioned. You're curving this. The mouth is also curving, but it's also near our eye level. So you just need to see how does it curve in this particular sculpture. It has slightly lower, slightly higher, and it has a slightly upward movement. It's just the specifics of the lips.
Looks feminine.
Mm-hmm. Specifics of the lips. Slightly like that. So that means your shadow, your lips shapes are going to be wrapping and built around this line. Like that. All right. And this line here, slight angle, not much curvature, mostly straight. This stays, and this here is starting to go in the opposite direction, because we're now looking slightly down at this area. All right. And the chin, if you look at the skull, the chin has slight curvature in there. Plus our muscles are a bit bulky here. There are muscles around, you know, your mouth, or wrapping around your teeth, your chin. All of that helps you speak, right? So there's a little more bulkiness in here compared to the skull. And so here we have our chin. So that means we can now see how the light is wrapping around. So from under the lip, we have this shadow. It falls across the chin. It wraps around according how the chin turns here, and it comes down and joins with this. So we joined that. We can now safely pretty much cover all of this. We'll work on that little spot of light later. It's not so important. And we can drop that shadow across the lips here. And bring this all into one shadow. And now we'll work out this shape of the face just a little bit more precisely. Let's separate our skull area from the hair, because right now all of this is together. And what we're seeing is we're seeing this turn of the face coming up. We're seeing that there is a little bit of the cheek bones. You look at the skull, see how they extend a lot, right? And so this part is where we have a lot of soft tissue. That's the cavity created by the mouth, especially if you open it. And up here somewhere are cheekbones. And we need to compare them to the distance, how they line up between the nose and the eyes. And I'm seeing that it's a little closer to the eyes and a little further away from the nose.
So
Another
there's just
line.
a lot of lines.
Exactly. Another line goes straight across under this
You know
eye.
what she looks like?
Yeah.
She looks like she's closing her eyes.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
She looks very peaceful. Still looks very feminine. It's very interesting
Uh-huh.
how when you draw men and women, usually they start off looking like the other. Like when I drew
Yeah.
my big sister, she kind of looked like a man.
Uh-huh.
When I tried to draw her.
It depends on what features you amplify, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once we get to a more precise stage, you will start seeing a more of a man face.
I guess also another thing is the what's this called again? I'm blanking out. That looks really smooth. It's like
The simplified sculpture, facial features. Yeah. The under the chin and the chin connection to the neck.
yeah.
All right. Okay, so here we go. I put the lines here. So this is the top of our cheekbones. This is where your main change in plane happens. That means we can now bring this in a bit for the eye socket and cavity. Look what is happening in the skull. In the skull, this is doing a lot deeper dive in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes around. Of course, we have the thickness of the hair here. So that's where you bring it in. You can simplify it with a straight line first. You can see where the hair are overlapping the forehead over here. It's not a great distance. It's almost the same as this. So now you don't need to measure so much because you have all these other shapes nearby. Yeah. Now we're simplifying the hairline. I'm looking at this distance here and the rest of the head, and I'm seeing that it's the forehead compared to hairline. Yeah, it's almost half and half, slightly less here, slightly more here. So, and this is also, there is a shadow, so you can have a nicer, thicker line. The hair wrap around here. We see a tiny, do we see an ear? No, we don't see that other ear. We just see the hair overlapping, going toward the ear. Hair. In the other side, see the hair, remember they were coming out of the center. So on the other side, the hair go above our eyebrow line. Simplify it. You can give it slight curvature now as well. So it is slightly curved, right? Mm-hmm. And we are bringing this line where? Remember that we positioned this pretty closely, right? This was our point for the edge of that shadow. Mm-hmm. So we haven't worked on the cavity, eye cavity socket around there yet, but somewhere in here this point is going to be, right? And so we see that the hair actually comes rather close. So right around here is where this little jog over in the hair happens, right? Mm-hmm. Here it lines up mostly around this line. Then it extends a little forward, those curls overlap the face here, something curly happening here, and now there is the ear, and then it brings us back to the chin. All right, so let's position the bottom of the ear and the top of the ear that we see. We don't see the whole ear, it's hidden by the hair. But we do see the bottom of the ear, and if you're looking at that, put a straight line, put your pencil straight across, as straight as you can, and see that it pretty much lines up with the tips of your lips. You see? That's where your ear attaches to your jaw. So all we need to do is, like, we got this, how far down the ear comes down, right? I'll even draw it through like that for now. What we haven't gotten exactly yet is this curvature. Is it coming up here, here, further? Probably not that far, because here's the edge of the face. But we do need to find the connection where the jaw stops and the ear hangs off of its side, right?
That's supposed to be the staircase line, right?
Yeah. So the jaw goes under, and the ear is kind of hanging over it, right?
It has big ears. Actually, no, not really.
Well, some of the ear is hidden under the hair. So we are concerned with the most visible part. So where is this point? Is this point more here, here, here? Where is it, right? Obviously, we need to size up this side of the face, this part of the jaw. And by the way, everything from the front here is now going in the other direction, like this. From about here, everything goes in the other direction, more like that. There is a tilt, so these lines are not quite as extreme, but somewhat, because of the tilt of the head. Now, let's compare this width from, let's say, the corner of the lips to here, and see what it is like, what the size of it is compared to something else. For example, I'm seeing that from here to here is the same as from here to here. Let's measure that, because I'm pretty sure we got this close enough. Bring it here. Looks like right here is the best one. So get rid of that. And we have this line, lines up straight with the tops of the lips. Great. We will put in this zigzag, and we will bring the jaw. The jaw is going mostly this way. Then as it's approaching the ear, it's making a sharper turn, a more sudden turn. See, he's starting to get more of a jaw. He's becoming more masculine all of a sudden.
Wow.
And by the way, this part is also where his front of his jaw is corresponding to another section here. If you look at the skull again, right? There is the front section, and then there is this section where the skull turns. And we're seeing more of this part of the jaw, and the bone over which then the muscles overlap is making more of this kind of jog over, right? So we need to make sure that we have this section here, and from then on it is starting to rapidly turn up there. And now our ear, you see what I put this for the lowest part of the ear? This is where the overlap is happening. So it comes up a little, then the ear overlap is happening just like this. And then the easiest thing is to transfer the angle. Let's take the angle at which the ear attaches to the head. And it attaches kind of like this. See that? And you see where my hair were? So everything starts to fit nicely. So here's that other overlap. Curls over here, these curls are above the chin. First curl is above the chin. Second curl is below that, no, sorry, chin, cheekbone. And then our ear, this curl overlaps our ear. No, actually it's closer to the ear because the ear is right here. So one curl, bigger curl, overlaps the ear and overlaps the ear here somewhere. If this is good enough guess, you can also compare it to the eye level and the nose level. It's sort of through the middle of the nose and kind of closer to the bottom of the eyes. So right here, not as high as this. Okay? And this curl, therefore, I see that it can come down a bit. I'm comparing it to the bottom of the nose. All right, yeah. So again, I'm going a little too far with like starting to carve out curls, but I'm just, you don't have to do it. You can simplify it into one shape at this stage, for this stage, and make sure you just overlap it in the proper place. And what I'm seeing is that the ear lines up with my egg shape and that the hair is coming in back, and I barely see a little outline of the hair in there, but mostly I'm starting to see the hair over here. I see the neck from behind the ear covered by hair. That neck is pretty much straight up and down for what we're doing. It has a little curvature. You can add it in a bit later, but you can just throw it in straight. Where's the neck then on the other side? All right, let's see. I see that my mouth comes out like that, and if you continue this curvature downward, you will see that the neck is coming out right there. This turn in the face is where it turns, and we still see the neck. So the neck is right there, and the neck is actually coming out at a bit more of a turn like that. Yeah, that's a big neck. What makes the neck look slightly narrower in there is that shadow being cast. So there is a shadow under the ear and a little bit of light, but then there is this shadow. And you can also get the angle of that shadow, bring it here and position it just like that. So I'm seeing that I can push this just a little bit over to make all of my other shapes fit in better. Alrighty. Okay, so you see he's starting to look more like a man.
Yeah.
Side of the face. Right now I'm keeping it a bit more angular, not quite as smoothed out. Let's figure out what is happening with the shadow over here. A lot of it is basically in the shadow or starting to be a shadow, but what is happening is somewhere just after this turn up above it, there is a greater change in light shadow. And as it comes up over the head, it makes a slight curved shape. Mostly because the hair is very curvy and fluffy. So I'm smoothing out my shapes here. I am giving this a lot more shadow. I'm keeping this more medium. That medium shadow kind of stops on the other side over here. The roundness of the forehead. This kind of goes between medium and light. This is definitely more of a shadow, more of a shadow proper. We can, I guess now, before you forget, add that little bit of light in here, because the lips kind of dip through the middle a bit, and this shadow is falling over, going through this partition here, right, the division between the lips, and going right under the nose here. All the details we'll figure out later. Right now we're separating the main areas of light and dark, right? The only thing we didn't do is we didn't continue with this shadow here. Remember that right under this area, we need to smooth it out. It's more round. And this is a stronger reflection, so I don't want to make it too dark. And the darker portion of this is actually on the neck. Got that? Yeah. And the chin, there is another slightly darker portion right through the middle of the chin here. But that would be starting to go into too many details. I will just lighten this up a bit so you could see more clearly what is happening in the nose. This is medium right here. This is more in the light, and everything over here is starting to be in a stronger shadow. The only thing we didn't quite indicate is, well, let's add a little bit of the partition here. The only thing we didn't indicate quite strongly yet is the situation in the eyes. There's a shadow, a little bit of a shadow here, a little bit more of a stronger shadow over here. And then there is a shadow that's forming over this ear, with the part of the ear and hair overlapping. Everything else is in the light.
How come you didn't draw the eyes yet?
Right, because it's not important at this stage.
Oh.
The placement of all the main features is what's important. The only thing I will add now is, you see how there is this angle forming, right? I already have that. That angle continues past this line, so I'm going to continue it a bit, because this is going to be combining with the bottom lid, bottom eyelid. All right? On its opposite side, draw the line through again. It's going to be here somewhere.
Okay, eyes.
Eyes are starting to appear, right?
Yeah.
Because we are doing, this is your first step. See how it's very sketchy. It's even sketchier than what I've done. But what I've done for you is so you would understand how to complete the sketch, how to understand all of the structure and complete this initial sketch with all your main light and shadow laid out comprehensively, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you are, if you do this initial sketch proportionally correct, everything else falls in place, no problem. So mostly I'm combining all of this into one shadow. We can carve it and separate it a bit more later. Let's do this neck a little more precise. It's not quite as far this way. Give this a bit of a shadow. And let's see, on this side, yeah, perhaps do that slightly less. Oopsie. There we go. I'm looking for the angles. And this angle goes in first and then comes out. So comes in more like that. And then it starts straightening out, going toward the neck. We're seeing some hair. Hair stops about here. We are seeing hair coming out from behind the ear. We're seeing this as our rightmost portion right here.
It looks like a distinguished gentleman.
And it keeps coming up. And this is still the highest point. And this comes out just a tad more in this direction. All right. So what you're doing with this technique is you're seeing your main light and shadow areas in the face, positioned according to all the rules of perspective and so on. And even though you didn't do the eyes yet, you have already established all these areas. Mm-hmm. You can push this into quite a bit of a darkness. Because you established all these areas correctly, you can now go and start doing more precise facial features, draw them out in there, without worrying whether you're losing all the major points and positions, okay? Because if you already put, like, remember I said put in a lot of points in, right? Mm-hmm. Points. Now you can come in and put the points for the eyes.
That's very stylized.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So when you are taking an actual human face and you need to stylize it, you can just bring it to this point, do more of the eyes. Once you position your eyes in here, give it a bit more detail, suddenly you got already your stylized face, your job is done, submit, choose the color for the shadow, color for medium, color for light, done.
Would you say that designing characters are actually easier than just like something like this?
Yes, designing characters without any models, right? Mm-hmm. If you're designing a character that's supposed to look specifically like somebody, let's say if you're making an animation and your character has to look like someone that everybody would recognize, then starting with more of their portrait and then starting to amplify some of their facial features and stylizing it mm-hmm. is where you will get that. Mm-hmm. See? Some cartoon artists who, do quick caricatures, they're very good at it. They practice simple faces drawing, and then they went and specifically practiced on how to start drawing someone by looking at them and already amplifying the features. But they still have that underlining structure. They feel it's there, but instead of drawing the nose this way, they amplify some of it. You see, instead of drawing their lips like restricted and soft, they go ahead and make the features more cartoony, stronger. They make some portions of the face larger, stretched out, warped, others smaller, depending on the effect they want to get. Mm-hmm. But in their mind, the normal human face, its underlying structure is already there. It's like they see it in their mind, and instead of drawing it first and then starting to change it, in the mind, it's like they already drew it, and when they draw, they are already implementing the changes. But to get to this stage, you go through this. Mm-hmm. You do this first, you get a good hang of how to do a regular human face, especially when it's sculpture, it's just sitting there, it's not moving, it's not getting tired, right? It's not falling asleep. And so you go, you focus, you get this down, and then you start to you get the hang of how to do the portrait really well, and then you can start learning how to do all the changes. Mm. So this is your first stage. I'm going to stop this demo now. If you can get this far in this lesson, next time I'll do the next. I'll continue with this, right?